So this is a little bit of a different video than what I usually do on my YouTube channel. But I was talking to my middle son, Franklin, and we were just talking about the Netflix documentary, The Racial Divide, and how he has been trying to really have a voice ever since that documentary was announced. And he did have an opportunity to go on the Today Show, which Netflix and the film director did not want him to do before the film came out, because when the film was announced, there's a clip of an interview that he had done within the film, and it kind of made it look like he was mad at his mom, and so he was not happy with that clip being the thing that announced the film, and then also wasn't happy with the inclusion of that interview just in general in the film. So anyways, he said, well, I want to have a response, and because he's a minor, I was hesitant as well to, have him go on live TV, but he kind of just kept insisting. And so I talked to Netflix and I talked to the film director and I just said, what can we do so that he can have his voice heard? And they said, well, have him write an article, have him do an op-ed, and we'll see if we can get it in Teen Vogue. And, we'll make sure to push it through. So, just have him decline all the other stuff and we'll make sure that he gets his voice out there. So he wrote an op-ed. This was in 2018, right before the Netflix film came out, and I think it was in March of 2018 that he wrote the piece, and then it never was printed, it never was shared, nobody ever picked it up. So it's been over a year now, and he was really disappointed by that because he felt like even though he's a minor, he still should have a voice. And it's been a dilemma as a mom to know what kind of a platform to give my kids, because they do feel the impact of our family being in the public eye, and they do want to speak out sometimes, and I think that they deserve that right. And now that he is 17, he's just a few months away from turning 18, and so I feel a little bit more comfortable with just sharing his words. So we kind of decided that I would share his op-ed that he wrote back in 2018. I would share it on my YouTube channel. So instead of him reading it, I'm going to read it, but it's his words, and I'll just read it over some pictures of him. So I hope you really can tune in to my son's words. I'll try to not cry, because it is, we have a special bond. And when Franklin went on NBC after the Savannah Guthrie interview that I did, I think everybody could really feel in his little 3 minutes of what he had to say that, he really was just done with all the attacks and really wanted to say something to have his mom's back. So, I've really tried to protect my kids and not lean on them or require them or even encourage them to have my back publicly, because I really want to protect them from any backlash to themselves. And yet I also want them to know that they matter and that their voice should be heard. So this is the piece that Franklin wrote for Teen Vogue that never was published, and I hope that you enjoy hearing it. How the Media Changed My Life by Franklin Moore. In 2015, the media put my life out there for everyone to judge without my consent. I was 13 years old and already struggling to find my way as a black kid in a majority white middle school while being mostly ignored by my peers. That was back when my mom was a civil rights activist and a professor, working long hours with little pay. She never made enough money to buy a nice home or have a fancy car, so I didn't have the cushion of money to help me combat the social pressures at school. I was largely ignored. That changed quickly once my mom's name became internationally recognized nearly overnight. We were just living our lives and then became famous without any of the protection that many famous people are afforded. We couldn't move to a gated community or hire a lawyer or otherwise defend ourselves. Everyone who had internet or a cell phone jumped into the controversy to criticize us, and my social life no longer was my sole concern as a teenager. Most people will recognize my mom's name, Rachel Dolezal, and even if you haven't heard my name directly, everything that has been said and done to my mom has been said and done to me too, as her son. Many don't realize the impact these controversies have on those closest to it. Given the access everyone has to social media and the internet, we couldn't escape the news coverage, and it was impossible to keep my life private. I had to be transferred to a different school so I could have a fresh start. I wasn't able to leave my house for a month in the summer of 2015 because of all the news trucks and cameras camped outside. It made me feel like a prisoner in my own home. It made me feel publicized, whether I was an active participant or not. As all teenagers do, I spent much of my day on social media. It was impossible to read the negative coverage and to not want to stand up for my mom, as she has always done so for me. But she felt it was important that my siblings and I stay as private as possible during that time. Now that I'm older, I'm able to speak my truth with more maturity and insight than I could have 4 years ago. I can see now why my mom tried to keep us out of the press as much as possible, but also understand why it was important for us to be part of the documentary, The Rachel Divide. A lot of media is just about hype and ratings, but a documentary takes time to tell a deeper story. We were filmed and interviewed over the course of 2 years, and with that came many doubts on my part whether we should continue to do the film. But now the film is out in the world, I'm happy that we chose to. I don't know how long it will last for people to feel so much anger against my mom, but I hope they take a moment to recognize that who they label as a liar, I label as a supportive and loving mom to me, which she was before and has been every day since the controversy broke. She's always been the same person to me, Mom. She was living her life and didn't push her personal identity on anyone. In fact, she's always put her needs last, after mine and my brother's, and even after the needs of the community. My grandparents gave the world the worst words to use against her, and she has been trying to recover from that ever since. I don't blame her for the publicity. She didn't ask for that at the time any more than I did. I hope that while the documentary shows moments of frustration I had, I am a teenager after all, it also shows viewers that you can have your opinion about her, but that there's much more to the story, her story. She has been the rock of our family, Esther, Langston, and Isaiah included. Often you see those profiting from controversy, and many probably assume that that is our case as well. But sadly, that is not the case for us. Since 2015, it's been difficult for my mom to find steady work, especially in her previous field of education and activism. It's hard for people to separate who she is from what her name now brings out in people. It caused tension and stress inside of our household due to the struggles with paying bills and food, and this affected me because the tension that would accumulate could ruin my mood in an instant, or the stress would distract me from completing my homework or working out to improve my self-confidence, which I was really lacking at the time. I wish people could have seen the positive things that she was doing so she could have had a chance at getting a job, like how she wrote a book in 2017 and started a nonprofit in Antigua in 2016 and went to South Africa in 2017 to support a social cause and campaigned for braiding freedom in Dallas, Texas in 2016. She didn't make any money from these events. She just received more backlash. Every good deed she does is twisted and torn apart. Sure, a lot of people who want to be that silly person on YouTube and World Star can benefit from online publicity, but it doesn't work like that for someone who has serious ambitions and passions to better the world and to go beyond being recognized on the street. While I was not happy that clip of my interview was the first thing that people saw of the Netflix documentary when it was announced, It shows the frustrations we have to deal with daily due to the media tearing into our mom. The last interview of the documentary makes me look like I hold anger toward my mom, and I would like to clear that up. I don't. The day of the interview in particular, I was a freshman in high school and was having a bad day, and I didn't want to come home and have a camera in my face. I was also frustrated in the moment that life couldn't go back to the way it was in May of 2015, before you ever knew my mom's name. We all resent some of our parents' choices, and I think people assume I resent my mom's choice of identifying as black or blame her for things falling apart in 2015. I don't, but I felt like there were some questions my mom was getting that weren't fair or the best, and I also felt like no matter what she said, people just got more upset. I was just hoping this part of our lives would end and things would go back to normal. Now at 17 years old, I realize that things will never be the same again. I didn't think any of this would still be relevant by the time I was in high school. My number one question about the documentary was if the issue people had with my mom would still even be a thing by the time the film was finished. Turns out it is. My mom is persistent, strong-minded, and resourceful. There were times I thought we would lose our home because of this, but she found a way. There were times I worried that this might impact me so I can't find a job when I grow up. But I know because of how she raised me, I too will find a way. People should watch the documentary because it's a well-made film and gives insight on a person's life that people have been talking about and getting wrong for 4 years. People have been getting their information from social media or salacious news stories, and this is the first time we have all spoken out directly. I can't say if this film will change our lives or if your opinions of my mom will change. I don't know how people will react, but I hope it will bring a better understanding and more positive recognition of my mom, because she, my siblings, and I deserve that.